Here, in our little village of Anatevka, you might say every one of us is a fiddler on the roof, trying to scratch out a pleasant, simple tune without breaking his neck. It isn't easy. You may ask, why do we stay up there if it's so dangerous? Well, we stay because Anatevka is our home. And how do we keep our balance? That I can tell you in one word. Tradition!
Tradition! Tradition! Tradition! Tradition! Tradition!
Because of our traditions, we've kept our balance for many, many years. Here in Anatevka, we have traditions for everything. How to sleep, how to eat, how to work, how to wear clothes. And because of our traditions, every one of us knows who he is and what God expects him to do.
Let me see that little happy face. Is it coming?
That are joined to welcome you too. Hello.
Hey.
Hi, buddy.
Oh, so this is Vincent.
Oh, this is Vincent.
After DePaul. 1 1/4.
1 1/4.
But I think he's more like a kind of 8, 9 months.
Okay.
So he's got Down syndrome, as you can probably see.
Yes.
And so he's just much more like, he's our 7th. And the other ones are kind of walking and running easily by now.
Yeah.
10 months, 11 months, 12 months.
Wow.
And he's maybe like 16 months. And he's just about gripping. Hello, welcome to One of Nine. I'm Maria Jones, and we have flown all the way up to Scotland with just one child this time, and we've come to see some sisters, Dominican Sisters of Saint Cecilia, your official title. Thank you so much for having us.
You're so welcome.
And what is your mission as the Sisters of Saint Cecilia?
So we were founded by Saint Dominic, who lived in the 13th century, and he founded an order of preachers to proclaim the truth of the gospel, especially in an area of France where there was a lot of confusion about what the true Christian faith was. And so he had this strong impulse to proclaim the truth. And at that time, it wasn't common for priests to be out preaching, you know. So this was kind of revolutionary at the time. But he received permission from the Pope to start this order of preachers. And from then on, the preachers have spread throughout the world. And that was 800 years ago. So here we are. We have a congregation of apostolic sisters. So we pray, but we also have an apostolate of teaching. So in the States, we're full-time classroom teachers. But here we carry on the mission of preaching through faith formation in our youth group. For high schoolers, we have Catechesis of the Good Shepherd that we have an atrium for younger children, through faith formation for adults and RCAA, and retreats for youth and adults as well. So it just takes another form, but it's all about proclaiming the truth and bringing people into a relationship with Jesus.
Vincent, can I hold you?
Oh, yeah.
You're going for
You're
the
gonna want the pom pom. Yeah.
Oh,
a little bit.
Oh.
lucky old Vincent getting all this
And that's
love
why he
showered
likes to
on
be
him.
upside down, Oh, because he's a bat. That's why he wants to be upside down. Of course.
So there's Dominicans, and then Dominicans of Saint Cecilia. Do all the different Dominican groups have another saint, or you chosen a saint? How did then Saint Cecilia come about?
Yeah. When our sisters were started in Nashville in 1860, we were founded for an all-girls boarding school. And so this idea of, they chose Saint Cecilia as a patron to like be a beautiful model for the young ladies to be formed in like the Southern ways and beauty and the arts. And so, they chose Saint Cecilia for that. And then we also have a love for music. A lot of the sisters sing or appreciate music and play instruments. Yeah. Do you like to sing too, Vincent?
He likes to dance.
But different communities, like I think in the UK, there's the Dominican Sisters of St. Joseph, and then Dominican Sisters of
St. Catherine of Siena.
So oftentimes they'll choose another patron.
And that will just add another angle, or not necessarily so much, but because yours came from like being the girls' school, but then also an appreciation for music. But it's not that really the preaching is the big thing.
Yeah,
That's
so there's a
that
order,
ties us
and
all
then
to-
there's the congregation. So like it's all the Dominican order with the spirituality of Saint Dominican connected in the Dominican family.
Yeah.
But then every congregation is like
Every congregation.
autonomous, like governmentally and such. So they run themselves and have a specific charism for that congregation as well.
Yeah. And the congregation is not geographical, because then you're from Nashville.
So yes, our mother house is in Nashville, and then we established missions. So they're still part of our congregation. They're not separate, but we have 30-something missions in the
Oh, wow.
States. And then we have a mission in Limerick, Ireland, and here, the Netherlands, Italy, Melbourne and Sydney, and Vancouver. I think I got all of them. So, but most of our missions are in the U.S.
Most of your sisters from America, mostly. And you're coming out to
We
help
have
us
a
out.
growing number of international young women entering, though. Like this year, out of 11,
Yeah,
Most
6
of
of them were international.
So if somebody wants to explore their vocation with you, what would they do? Where would they go?
well, sometimes it's actually whichever mission you sort of encounter first. So we have women that, for example, are studying in the UK, and they find out about us. So they come. We have a retreat for young women twice a year, so that they can get to know us. And then if they want to keep discerning with us, then eventually they would contact our vocation director and maybe visit the mother house. And then, but this is a good first contact for
And you have
people
the
that
two
are over.
retreats. How long's the retreat for the women?
It's a weekend, twice a year. So, and those who want to discern a religious vocation or are starting to feel that draw can stay for an extra day. And we kind of focus more on religious life. So the
Open to all
open
women?
to all. Well, single women 18 to 30.
Okay.
Of course, we'd love to have you, but
We do have other retreats for
And then what about your prayer routines throughout the day?
we get up at 6 a.m. One of the sisters is the bell ringer for the day and wakes up all the other sisters. And then we meet in the chapel at 6:30. During Lent right now, we pray the penitential psalms. So just to unite ourselves in the spirit of penance for Lent. But then we would have 30 minutes of silent meditation after a morning offering. And then we pray lauds together. And we chant back and forth, a very monastic way to chant, a lot of standing and sitting and bowing. But it is very Dominican to pray like with your whole body, like that Saint Dominic, when he founded the order, was fighting against a charism fighting against a heresy, that said the body was bad, and so
What was that heresy? Was it Albigensian or something like that?
you've done your research.
I read the Secret of the Rosary.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
So I think it's that, wasn't it? Yes. Okay. So he's fighting the heresy.
and this idea that God became man. They thought that was too much, that God couldn't become man, but it's really beautiful that God became man and he was incarnated, and we have a body that we can praise the Lord with. So then after that we come for breakfast. The rest of the morning we have time to do work, prepare for apostolic things in the evening. Sometimes we'll have meetings, and then we come together again at Mass with the parish or at the convent at some time during the morning, and then we have noon prayers, like some devotional prayers that we pray. The afternoon varies from day to day, because we have some days we teach catechesis to the 3-year-olds. Some days we have confirmation prep classes. These two sisters lead. There's usually something in the afternoon, and then we come together again for Vespers. to chant the psalms again, and then the rosary. And then we have dinner. When we eat in silence, and someone reads to us.
You do that.
Yeah, it's quite lovely, this idea of being fed spiritually as you're being fed physically.
And what will you be read?
Right, all sorts of things. Right now
Yes.
we're reading a biography of a German bishop who lived during the Nazi regime.
Or sometimes it's even a retreat that a priest has given at the Mother House. It's been recorded for us. So
We read a beautiful book on the Sacred Heart recently, like how the devotion, the Sacred Heart.
Oh, I'd love to know more about the Sacred Heart.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And
About the
it's,
Sacred Heart?
yeah. Yeah, so then after dinner we have time to be together as a community in recreation. This idea to be recreated as we just spend time together. Sometimes in the evenings we also have youth group. So on Wednesdays and Thursdays we have the young people come, and so it's quite a busy evening, but it's very joyful to have them come.
So what are your numbers like here for the children coming? Little ones, middles, bigs? I'm just intrigued in the area.
The little kids. Their class are probably about 12 kids.
Yeah.
For like the catechesis. Confirmation might be 18 kids or something like that. I don't remember. And then for high schoolers, the older teenagers, we have about like 7 who come. But then the younger one, it could be like 25
30,
on a good, with a couple different nights. So if they're all there together, it could be like 50. It's
pretty-
Where would you put them? Where would you put the 25?
We have a lot of outdoor space, which is amazing. So in Scotland, this summer, you know, it never gets dark. So you got a lot of light. In the winters, you have a lot of darkness.
yes, I think we all went through some sort of a culture shock, and it takes different forms. But I mean, this is another Western culture, so it's not quite as shocking as you're going to I don't know, somewhere very different. But I do think that when I first got here, it did strike me that there were less of a Christian culture than I was used to growing up. And so it just made me think, wow, the young people that we serve, they have a lot of pressure, a lot up against a faithful living of their Catholicism. But they really struck me because there they were, like wearing their crucifixes in school and going to mass, and so I was very inspired by them. It's kind of like apostolic time. So in a way, it's a good time to be a Dominican because this is when the gospel is needed more than ever. So
We've been asking, would you like us to pray for you? And then people are like, no, which in some senses, you'd expect everyone. So we, to at least receive a prayer or something. So in that sense, Peter's question about, do you notice it being less Christian? I think we do have some of those interactions a little bit more than in America.
So this is the quadrangle of the convent. Beautiful courtyard.
Gorgeous. Is this something common in a convent? I've seen one of these in a convent before.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's this this is a silent area. So normally we're in silence, and there's this monastic, as we process even, we're walking in silence so you can contemplate and be with the Lord. Yeah. But I think it's this inner sanctuary, like you and the Lord be together in the courtyard when it was originally built in 1479.
When was it built? 1479?
The Franciscans were here. And then when they rebuilt it in 1898, they followed much of the same pattern. So they think that it's one of the most accurately restored monasteries in all of the UK, based on original drawings.
What is the monastery called?
Greyfriars. We call it Greyfriars Convent because of the Franciscans that were originally here. But there's a lovely picture in here about this is one of when they were rebuilding
it's just so lovely. I don't want to go with the big gospel thing.
They were rebuilding the monastery, so you can see the masons working this central area right here as they were restoring the building. But I just love these guys just working.
I learnt recently as well that the monastery is actually where the nuns would live as well. But the convent was where the lay people lived, and then now somehow a convent has been taken on by nuns, just to describe where nuns are. I just thought all convents is where nuns live. That's a convent.
Yeah.
And then a monastery is where the monks live. But its monastery is the original. Is that right?
You would say that.
Because your monastery here.
But I wonder if there's a distinction between nuns and sisters. Like the convent we were like for active people, so maybe that's for the lay people. But there's another lovely picture in here of what it looked like before. This is
lovely
we
bright
could have had
room.
you in here. This was
Yeah.
but
nice.
this is what it looked like before it was rebuilt. So you can see.
Wow, the ruins.
Isn't that amazing? To go from that to this building.
And what year was this? 18 something.
Yeah, the chapel was rebuilt in 1898. It was finished. That's when it was rededicated on the Feast of St. Francis. But then the rest of the convent was finished around 1907. And
So it's the Greyfriars Monastery. And did the Franciscans rebuild?
No, the Sisters of Mercy. So the Sisters of Mercy, so the Franciscans were here from 1479 until 1560 when Catholicism became illegal.
Yeah.
And then they left somewhere in the next 10 years because they weren't allowed to celebrate the Mass. They weren't allowed to take in new vocations. So they left and probably went back to mother houses or...
Yeah.
And then the Sisters of Mercy came to Elgin in either 1861 or 1871. And they were living across the street at a convent. And they kept looking at the ruined buildings. And they were just like, this is where we need to be. And so they were praying. One sister buried some medals where the high altar was. And they eventually purchased the property with the help of some generous benefactors. But then it was too expensive to live here. So it had to go up on auction. And then this plaque kind of shows the third Marquess of Bute bought it for the sisters and helped to restore it. And then that's why there was a break because he died and after the chapel was finished. And so they had to wait till his son came of age. And then he gave permission for it to continue to be rebuilt. And so then the Sisters of Mercy were here teaching at the school and doing other ministry in the area until 2010.
So who did the Sisters of Mercy come from? Who were there?
In Ireland. Mother Catherine McCulloch founded the Sisters of Mercy to take care of the poor in Ireland. And they came to Scotland like in the 1850s and kind of spread around. They taught in many different schools in this area. So Sister Imelda Ann and 3 other sisters came in 2013. And yeah, the diocese helped to renovate the place for the sisters.
So how long had the other sisters left?
It was just 3 years, but it had been just a couple of older sisters living here. So the place kind of needed some refurbishment and yeah, the diocese. It was in the diocese owned it. So whenever the Lord Column Stewart gave it to the Sisters of Mercy, he said, if you ever were to leave, it's going to revert to the diocese.
Okay.
Which was such a blessing that the building didn't just go
And the bishop
anywhere.
had heard about you and invited you.
Yeah. It's kind of a fun story. We both like it because we came from Missouri. He met another bishop in Rome who had just been ordained a bishop too from Missouri and had known Bishop Hugh from Pluscarden when he was the abbot of Pluscarden. And he said, have you ever thought about asking the National Dominicans to come? And the Bishop Hugh actually had. And so then it's kind of a lovely connection, but we like the Missouri connection.
That is lovely. Thank God.
Yeah. So the sisters have been here. Bishop Hugh in his opening homily when they had a massive dedication talks about like the cavalry coming over the hills. Yeah, just such a blessing. But the whole chapel was filled when the sisters first came. Like the diocese was so excited to welcome sisters to come because they saw the beauty and the gift of religious life in the
I'm
area.
so pleased to hear it.
Yeah.
And I think that is generally what the nuns that we hear say, that people are more intrigued and happy and love having nuns in their town, in their place.
And then the people of the town really missed the sisters when they left. There's like you can hear they talk about it. It was like, I don't know, a sadness because even people that weren't Catholic came here for music lessons with Sister Winifred and other, lots of other. But would you like to see our chapel?
Yes.
Yes, this is it.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. This is our favorite part, is the Jesus the Bridegroom window. It's quite lovely. We think it's the only one like it.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. So when the third Marquess of Bute was restoring the convent, he wanted to use the same stained glass window. Designer Nathaniel Westlake, who had designed stained glass windows in his castle in Cardiff. It's the Virgin Saints in procession, a heavenly procession behind Jesus, the bridegroom. You can come up. They wanted to also like remember the sisters in the religious orders that had been here before. And so the Franciscans are in the front. And then on the right, there are 3 Mercedarians, which is like the mother community of the Sisters of Mercy. But you might notice some other people, like you have Agnes right above Jesus, and then Joan of Arc.
Yes.
And we love Saint Cecilia. She doesn't have her heart, but she's above Catherine of Alexandria, who has the wheel. So Saint Cecilia.
Lucia with the eyes.
Yeah. But what's beautiful about Jesus and it's meant to also look kind of like a Eucharistic procession, so that he himself, Jesus, is truly present in the Eucharist. And then his wounds are actually like, have become like rubies. So like every wound that we experience in our life is glorified.
Yeah, that's what I say.
Yeah. What's a fun little, like this was the sisters up here where that was their infirmary. And so they have a little window so they could be present at Mass, even if they were in the chapel.
I see. The room's up there.
Yeah, so there's rooms on the top on this side. We can go down to the back. There's some beautiful side altars back there.
And it looks like the Franciscan cross.
Yes.
Yeah. Which maybe was original or no?
Yeah, well, they actually had to get, I don't know, the rules must have been different back then, but they had to get the permission of the Pope. So there's like a document from Pope Leo the 13th. Yeah. Yeah, we love our relics. People love that they're not like in a glass cage, so you can come and venerate them. This altar, kind of honors the Franciscan heritage of the friars who began the monastery, and then the San Damiano cross. What was that?
Saint Bernardinus of Siena. And see if I do want this. One of Baby Vincent's saints.
Yeah. The Sisters of Mercy thought it was, lovely to put the San Damiano cross that spoke to St. Francis, the original one that said, like, when he said, rebuild my church, because it was this church that was rebuilt.
I didn't know where, I just know that's the Franciscan cross. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that's the one that spoke to him.
Yeah.
And it's the Eastern Orthodox thing, isn't it, when they have the 2 feet separate? But that was the one. Is that right? Otherwise, like the Roman Catholic, the more like put them together.
Traditions, yeah.
I think.
It's quite lovely. I love the way the head
yes.
comes down. Yeah. The Mercedarian order was originally founded to free slaves. So that's why you see the image of Our Lady with the chains being broken. One of their founders was a Dominican, Saint Raymond of Peñafort, who's over here on the left. Oh. And so we kind of like that there was a Dominican in there before we ever came. It's like the Lord knew that we were coming here eventually. But we also follow the rule of St. Augustine, as they did. So, yeah, we like Grandpa. Yeah. And actually, I was just reading in a book that when the sisters came in to see it, when it was being worked on, they thought, they must have not known it was just sisters. They thought it was too beautiful for them. But, the Lord deserves something beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And doesn't it raise our spirits? As soon as you see something like that, it just raises your spirits.
When Catholicism was outlawed in Scotland and all of the UK, they kind of took a different approach to religious buildings in Scotland because they didn't want to like destroy them. They wanted to just repurpose them. So this became like a justice house where they would have meetings, and they would sometimes have like other services here. But then for a while, a family called the King family lived here, kind of in the part that we were in earlier, where our library and our refectory are now. And so they lived here, and they would sometimes use this for family funerals. And so a lot of the King family are still buried here.
And a rood, that is the cross, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The rood. So is that where there's this screen? Mm-hmm. So would it be maybe the religious would be in this part of like the older churches, and there's a rood screen, and then everybody else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. God. Are you going to carpet?
Would you say carpet?
St. Therese.
St. Therese. Yeah, we love the little lattice statue niches.
Oh yeah, I read her book a year or so ago.
Yeah. Would you like to see our atrium where we have the
Yes,
catechesis for the children?
definitely.
So that's in here.
Oh, it's
And
so
the
lovely.
little, this
Oh,
is
the
like the
little,
practical life section. So they
Oh,
learn
wow. Oh.
how to, just because they need that, especially the 3 to 6 year olds, like it prepares them to be able to handle the precious things that they'll touch later.
And the bell, I love that. So we didn't do loads of it, but we just sang, the Annunciation. I remember doing that over Rupert. I love that. So who's made all your things? Have you, over the years, different sisters?
Yeah, the different sisters have made them through the years. I've just moved here 3 years ago, so a lot of the materials were already made.
When I came, 7.5.
People all across the country are loving this. The atrium, the
Yeah.
Catechesis of a Good Shepherd, and but there's not tons of people that are able to necessarily do it.
But it's hard because it takes a lot of time, the method, but it's really worth it. And it's such good formation for the catechist. It's amazing when they come to realize that they're a sheep, like they're really part of the fold of God, and that they have a plan. He's got a plan for their life, and he's always going to take care of them.
Gorgeous, because this is the thing, you've got to find beautiful, tiny things.
And you use real things, like the kids have real glass, real metal.
Yes.
Because Jesus became incarnate, like as a real person, and it's a method that really like follows the child. The catechists, they use the term like matchmaker sometimes, like you're trying to be the matchmaker between the child and Jesus. Like you want them. It's all about relationship, because so often in catechesis, like we start with like first communion prep or first reconciliation, so it's this moral. You just see these are all these rules we have to follow. But if they don't have a relationship with Jesus, and that's what the 3 to 6 year old child needs, and they develop this relationship with Jesus, so then they're like, rules for living in the kingdom, I can follow that because it's. Do you want to go out here? I don't know if we want to go.
Solid wood and sandstone.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, look at that.
It's so beautiful. I know the keys. I didn't know that these kind of keys still existed until I moved to Scotland.
Oh.
But Sister Mary Gianna's been gardening, so it's looking really good. It's beautiful to sit out here in the sunshine and
The heathers.
the heather.
Yeah, do you know what? We need that in our garden. Little statue of Margaret
They do,
Mary.
Yeah.
They do well in the shade too, which is good because it gets a lot of shade in here.
What's happening here? Like water's going to come down or something?
You know, I've always wondered this.
Yeah, I have not figured out what that is.
By the looks of it, I don't know if it's like from the time of the Franciscans, like the 15th century, or if was something.
Coat of arms.
Is it the Marquis of Buste's coat of arms?
I think so.
Yes.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just a Scottish name for the mountains, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know what the history of it is. I learned that Glen was valley too, because
good
it
to
was the
Good to know.
Glen
there's loads of
Wyvis,
Glens
yeah.
Sorry.
But this is lovely. We have a lot of the games with the kids out here, water sports and other. And with the 6 to 9 year olds, we did some gardening. So they planted these tulips that are coming up. It's the fullness.
Of the
Yeah.
religious life that are there because they work. That's what they do.
And they remind
The
us of who we are.
same.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like even the spaces and our own habits, they remind us of who we are and like whose we are.
Yeah.
You know, every morning we have prayer, so when we put it on. And so, same as wearing your wedding ring. Like,
vesting.
yeah.
So like vesting prayers.
Yeah.
Oh, do you? That's
Yeah.
lovely. I love all that stuff. I found out more about that. And when I read this book about the traditional Latin Mass, that was one of the things I thought, oh my goodness, every single piece the priest put on,
Yeah.
there was a different prayer for that piece, and different, whatever the prayer was.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Is that Rose Garden?
Oh, just the height of potential energy.
Yeah.
Get about to go. Oh,
We
the
used to have all these houses, but we had to take them down because they got damaged in a storm and they were starting to rot. And also the seagulls were nesting.
Oh,
So now, unfortunately, the roses that are climbing roses don't have anything to climb on, so they're kind of small.
Yeah.
But it's still a nice,
that'll be
prayerful
gorgeous
place.
when they start coming out. Gorgeous.
But it always needs some gardening work.
We're always looking for gardeners.
We're always looking for gardeners.
Oh, they're lovely. Just a little shrine to Our Lady back here.
The dove pot.
Yeah.
Because Mary's like the dove pot for the Holy Spirit.
Vincent, do you see Mary? Do you see her?
Lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby Jesus.
firstborn of all creation. For in him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. All things were created through him and for him. Yes, before all things, and in him all things hold together. He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead.
Thank you so much for listening. God bless you. Please consider supporting our work. Thank you so much to all of you who have supported our work so far. Without you, we could not be here and continue interviewing, coming all the way up to Scotland. So thank you so much and God bless.
Shine a light on me so that everyone can see that I wanna stay here indefinitely. Time exists just on your wrist, so don't panic. Moments last and lifetimes are lost in a day. So wind your watches down, please, 'cause there is no time to lose. And I'm gonna stay here indefinitely. And I wanna stay here, so just let me be. Now I can see the light circling around your reflection. And I'm gonna stay here indefinitely. And I'm gonna stay here, so just let me be indefinitely. 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 Indefinitely.